Bum 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 bum. Just chat with Uncle Dominic.
Everyone, welcome to Just Chat with Uncle Dominic. Today we have a special topic and a special guest. Our special guest today is Alan Stevens. Okay, Alan Stevens. A quick introduction about Alan Stevens. He is an international profile and communication specialist, and he's regularly featured on national TV in Australia and radio as well. He's also, I guess, a founder of Campfire Project on Facebook, which has been quite amazing place where people can share their stories. Not feeling judged by it as well, so they're able to share it and at the same time listen to other people's story and get uplifted by it. So here we have Alan Stevens. Would you like to
Thank you very
introduce
much.
yourself a little bit more?
Will do. Thanks very much. I'm Alan Stevens. I'm an international profiling and communication specialist, which means I help people to read other people to understand their personalities and also their emotions. So very quickly, that's looking at the face to tell whether from your facial features, how you like to think and process. And then when I'm talking to you, I've got your body language and expressions that give me your emotions. And from that, I've got your character as well. So, and
Oh,
as you
that
said, I'm
just
also the
on the
host of the
first look?
Campfire Project.
Would that be on the first impression?
Yeah, well, see, your facial features don't change overnight. So if I've got your photograph on a LinkedIn profile, website, Facebook, anywhere that I can find it, I've got your personality the moment I meet you. So I've got that in advance. I know how to put my presentation together before I go and talk to you. And then once I'm talking to you, I've got the feedback of the body language and expressions that tell me, have I read you right? Is there anything emotionally going on? And thirdly, are you telling me the truth?
So you're kind of like a lie detector there.
A little bit that way, yes. But
So,
I
well,
teach other
let's give
people
it
how
a
to do the
try,
same
shall we?
thing.
We should give it a try, shall we? What's your impression about me now? Like
Well, I know if I was
yeah.
meeting you for the first time and in a physical location where I was going to be standing near you, I know that you're more discerning. You like to have a little bit of space when you meet people for the first time. Not that you're not friendly, it's that you like to check out who's safe to be around, who's not safe to be around. So I know if I meet you for the first time, I need to give you a bit of space, because if I don't, and I just start coming up to you and standing where I feel comfortable, you're not going to be listening to anything I'm saying, because you're just going to be feeling uncomfortable. And if you move back, and if I step in not thinking about it, all I'm going to do is have that Benny Hill type chase across the room, and you're not going to be listening to anything I say. I also know it's how things feel inside, so that where other people will express outwardly, you'll get a feeling for things. And when you're working on something, it's stressful, you're busy with it, you don't want to be interrupted. You just want to be left alone so you can fix it and work on it yourself. And I know you're going to be fairly fussy when you put things together. They've got to be done the right way. So I know that the way I speak to you, I've got to be not too flippant, because I've got a dry wit, and sometimes I say things that may not really come across the right way to you. So I'd be careful how I actually speak. But I know you like the overview on things, so make your decision fairly quickly. And once you've made your decision, it's, yep, just get out of the way and let me get things done.
Wow. Wow. That's like I'm going to say 100% accurate. Like wow. Just from that small meeting that we had, like a minute or so,
Mm,
like you're able to, tell everything about
mm,
me. That's great. Now,
yeah,
for some people out there, they will say this as kind of like judging. Would that be like judging? Like because people saying judging is bad. Because if
mm,
we're trying to judge another
mm,
person by their looks or understanding their,
mm,
their life without even experience their life, and then by saying what you're
mm,
saying, but if you're wrong, they could be really bad, right? But if
yeah,
you're right, some people could get offended as well. So
mm.
how would that go?
Okay, well, yes, it is making a judgment, but it's not being judgmental. Two different things.
Ah,
How often have you looked at somebody who looks like somebody that from your past who did the wrong thing by you? What's your immediate reaction to that person who looks like that other person from your past? Well, we don't trust them. And the end result is we say, oh, yeah, but we were right. Well, what actually happens is that we don't really connect with them. We pull back from that person because we don't trust them because of a previous experience. virtually what happens, they pick up that energy, realize that we're pulling back as well. And so we create a self-fulfilling prophecy because they don't trust us and we don't trust them. See, there used to be a belief that particular bumps on the head would a thing called phrenology. It was created by psychologists and psychiatrists as a prelude to neuroscience. But it was worked on. Particular shapes would be about your character. It'd be whether you were a serial killer or what type of person you were. I'm talking about the face. I'm talking about the facial features. And if you think about it, and I'm talking about personality, not character. So two people can look very similar. One can be a saint and one can be a sinner. All I'm taking a judgment on is how you take information in, how you process it, and therefore how you're likely to react in any given situation. I'm not looking at the what you're thinking about or what you're thinking are going to do. That's all clairvoyance. That's all that old phrenology stuff. So really, if you think about it, you lift weights, you're going to build muscles in your body. And depending on which exercises you build, depends on what part of your body you build. I used to be a rower in the surf club, and all my work was on the upper body. I was on a ski, so there was nothing to do with the lower body. And so I've got narrow legs, but I had broad shoulders and more muscles on the upper side of my body. And so same thing there. And at the same time, while we're thinking about things, whatever we feel inside, we express outwardly. So if we're feeling happy, we're going to have that happy look on our face. Our posture is going to be happy, the whole lot. So if I think in a certain way over and over again, and I do this, I really focus in and I pull these muscles above my eyebrows. And the end result is I end up with these vertical lines because I've worked those muscles over and over. Mm-hmm. So my face becomes a roadmap of how I like to think and process, not what I'm thinking and processing. So this is why I can look at somebody and say, hey, I know this is how you take information in and how you like to process it. And in that way, I can then connect with you in a more respectful manner, because I know if you just want the overview, I'm not going to give you a whole mass of information because that's going to switch you off. It doesn't do it doesn't help us to create a relationship. There's too much information, there's not enough trust. And so the more I can read you in that way, the more respect I can show towards you, as opposed to the old system of trying to, work out whether you're a crook or not. And when it comes to the micro expressions, little twitches on the face that give away your emotions, we also use those. A lot of people like Paul Ekman, who did all the research on the micro expressions to start with, and all the law enforcement organizations, they use it for lie detection. I use it as a truth seeker. I want to know what's going on. So if your facial expressions do not match what I've seen in your facial features and the conversation we're having, then I know something emotionally is going on. Mm-hmm. And then I can go, okay, let's see if we can find out what that is. And can I help you work through that particular issue?
I don't know how to respond to that. That's like, wow. So is there like a guidebook or something that where can regular people like us can actually see like, oh, okay, the eyes like twitch this way, that means he is anxious or something like that. Is there anything like that at all for those people like us that don't study it?
Yeah, well, one of the things, I wrote a book some time ago. It's an ebook that's up on Amazon and also Google Play, called The Face. And that was about how to match your personality or your career to your personality. And it looked at about a third of the traits between the age of 0 and 5, and then 5 to 10, and then 10 up to school leaving age. So it looked at about, as I said, a third of all the traits up into that full age range. And the idea is, if you look at someone's facial features, you know what hobbies will suit them, what sports will suit their personality, and if they're playing sports, what positions they should play in those, like soccer, for instance. Should it be down the wing? Should it be in the middle where all the rapid movement and scrums are happening? And also then what careers will suit your personality. So I wrote the book for that. But I'll let everybody know right now, I've got a free gift for all your listeners. Yep. I've got a link to a free course of mine. It takes 28 minutes to go through. It's 14 short modules that talk about how the facial features work. It also gives you some traits you can go and test for yourself. And it also looks at where the eyes move when somebody's sourcing information. So if we're getting a picture of something, where do we look? What does something sound like? Or what would something sound like? Where our eyes go in that direction. That will then give you the beginning of being able to pick up whether somebody's telling you the truth or not.
Okay, great. To the viewers out there, when I get a link later, I'll put it down into the chat so you guys can all get a link to it and try to get his free lesson for 28 minutes. That's amazing. I mean,
It's my
just
pleasure.
being here you for 10 minutes, you have taught me a lot. I'm amazed at how you are able to and see people not judgmentally, but just able to
Mm.
see them, like you said, truth seeking, right? Seek the truth out of
Mm.
them, and able to help you as well. I was like, wow. So in
Mm.
this way, as an educator, like a teacher, this would be very helpful for me to be able to see my students, like the problems that they are having,
Mm.
able to help my students to, I don't know, get a better understanding in their lessons, and
Mm.
how it affected their life, as well for parents like me as well, because I have 3 kids. So
Mm.
this would definitely help me to be able to tell my children's I don't know, behavior, why they're doing this, or if they're lying, well, especially if they're lying, so I can find out. Did you play
Well, there's a bit
computer
of
today?
giveaway if they are lying, because whenever you ask them, "Did you do that?" and their head goes whoomp down to the side, you know they're trying to hide it. They've just told you a fib.
For the younger ones, for sure. Yeah, but when my older one, the 14-year-old, he has a good way of hiding things nowadays.
Yeah. Well, it's still the tells aren't the same, but there's a lot of tells in that as well. You'll be able to pick up.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to focus on our topic today. So let me share a quote that I found earlier today. So it's up here on the screen. You can't see it, so I'll read it out to you. It says, "Tell your story because your story will heal you and it will heal someone else." Okay, one more time. Tell your story because your story will heal you and it will heal someone else. Okay. Do you have any input on this quote right here?
It's absolutely true, because and this is one of the reasons why I started the Campfire Project. It had to be a safe place where people could come along, tell their story without, and have somebody listen to them, but not be judgmental, not try and coach them, not give them advice, but just hold their space. Because one of the biggest problems we have as we go through life is we have things happening to us all the way through life, but quite often, who do we talk to? And especially my generation, especially the males, we were told to suck it up, be tough, and boys don't cry and all that
Right.
sort of rubbish. And so, and we were damn good students because we learnt that and we embodied it, and we never told anybody anything about what we were feeling. It's one of the reasons why in Australia we lose 8 people to suicide every day, and 6 of them are men. So 6 men are committing suicide in taking their lives successfully each day. And that went up in when COVID first hit as well. The issue is that men were thinking, well, who do I talk to? And most men, because yes, we are extremely emotional. Where people think we're not emotional, we are emotional, but we don't know how to handle it. So the guys will hold it back, and it builds up and builds up. Now that will either come out as violence, or it will come out as self-harm. It'll just be that you'll live with the misery all your life, or you'll even try and take your life. And so we need to work on that. My story was, if you like, I'll explain some of mine, because
For
as I
sure.
said,
Yes.
there's nothing in my life that I'm ashamed of, and nothing that I'm embarrassed by anymore. See, my father died when I was 3, and I grew up with my mother and older sister. I was bullied at school, and by the time I was 9 years old, I'd had enough. And I actually climbed into my mother's pill cupboard and started taking pills. And while I was doing it, I was being very careful, because this is how a 9-year-old's mind is working. I'm worried about getting caught. So I'm taking a pill from each of the different bottles so that she wouldn't know that I'd taken them. Hey, if I'm successful, she's going to know I've taken them, because I'm going to be dead on the floor. But at that point, I thought to myself, okay, everyone's going to be happy when I'm gone. And then I thought, what am I making people happy for? And I got angry at that point, and that was when I stopped. And from that point on, right through my school years, I was pretty angry. And I didn't really have any friends going through school. But then I applied for our Postmaster General's department. Today we've got Telstra. Before that, it was Telecom.
Right.
And before that, Telecom was actually connected to the post office as one organisation, Postmaster General's. I applied for access to them, to work with them, and I got knocked back when I was 15. So I applied again when I was 16, in year 10 at school. And they told me I'd failed the exam. Now, that was a further insult, because it was an IQ test. That was what they were looking for. Well, they knocked me back. I became a cabinet maker and then realised that was a factory job. So I decided to go back to school, wondering how I was going to get through year 11 and 12. And I got a letter from the Postmaster General's Department saying, oh, we've had that many dropouts, we'll now take you. So it was a door prize, consolation prize. Did my training. 10 years later, I'm the youngest supervising technician in Australia. So much for their entrance exam. So that's when I started looking and going, got to read people in a more effective way. I then was put in charge of men who were all older than me. I was 23 and my second in charge was 38. And the other members of the team were older than me. One in particular had been one of my seniors in Sydney before I'd moved from Sydney up to Newcastle, where I was put in that position. In my mid-30s, I joined the surf club. And at that point, they taught me into being a patrol captain. And I found out why. I'm in my mid-30s, same age as all the other guys on the committee. And they wanted me in that role because nobody else wanted this squad. So I got all the kids and men that nobody else wanted. We turned that into the Patrol of the Year. The following year, they talked me into being the club captain. Now, my attitude to being a leader is your job as a leader is to make yourself redundant. And that is by raising other people up to do what you're doing just as well as you, if not better than what you can do, so that you can then take yourself out of that prison you created for yourself. If you think you're indispensable, you've created a prison. Whereas I wanted to be dispensable, but do in a way in which they saw my value and I got promoted. And that's virtually what happened with the squad that I kept them together the next year because they made me the club captain. So I kept that squad together, put one of the guys in the leadership role. They won the Patrol of the Year again the second year. Wow. And so I then, we took the club from about 40 active members to about 120. There were a lot of people who were in the club but not doing their patrols. They were still competing, and to compete you had to do patrols. So we got a lot from there. We brought a lot more people in and trained them. I then, I was a zone supervisor looking after 3 beaches. And shortly after I'd finished that role, my first wife left and I had 3 boys to raise on my own. They were 4, 11 and 12. And so you might say from in business being the youngest to in the surf club being the least experienced, and then right out of my depth trying to raise 3 boys on my own while running, because I'd already left telecom at that point. I was no longer working for the government. I was running my own business. And so we just started a business. I'd just been through divorce. I'd just buried my mother and a couple of mates who had committed suicide around that time. And at the same time, I was raising the 3 boys as well. So that's a bit of my life in a nutshell. But it was when I went through my second divorce in the early 2000s. I was very at the very beginning of 2000. It's when I realised I needed to learn to read people more effectively. And about that time, I had become a massage therapist, and I was working with terminally ill patients, and a lot of them were reversing their conditions, which I couldn't understand because before that I was a therapeutic massage, and now I'm doing something else, and I've taken people through NLP processes and putting them on the table, massaging them using colour and sound therapies and aromatherapies. And I needed some answers, and through some chance meetings, met with an Aboriginal group, got invited out bush, ended up going through my rite of passage just before my 50th birthday. So from boyhood into manhood, the full thing that you would take the younger boys through their tribal initiations. And through all of that, this was all the beginning of the journey, because the Aboriginal side is about love, humility and respect. They're the 3 pillars. But it's all about how to bring boys into manhood. And I've also been working with groups where we've been helping men to become better men. So these 2 groups, I brought them together in the way in which I was thinking, the philosophies from both. Love, humility and respect on one side, brotherly love, relief and truth on the other. And realise, bring the boys from into manhood, but then help the men to become better men, not become the man, but to become a man. Because men who are trying to be the man are competing with everybody. They're the ones that are cheating, lying and everything else. And we find the same thing with the women who are trying to be the woman as well, with their egos. And so when a man tries to be a man, wants to be the best version of himself, and the woman is doing the same thing, who do they want around them? People who are doing exactly the same thing. So one creates a lonely place, trying to be the man or woman, but being a man or woman creates a community, and that's what the Campfire Project has been all about. That was my story that led me through just some of the key points
Right.
that led to the Campfire Project.
I mean, from right now, I'm unable to tell that all this stuff happening to you, because I know all successful people, they have to go through something, and so you just shared that, and it's amazing because from I wouldn't be able to understand that. I wouldn't be able to know like what you have gone through if you haven't told me that, and
That's
so
right.
and from your story, it seems like you have gone through quite a hard time, and it's impossible to understand that, and so but your story tells me that you have gone through it, you've been through the
Mm.
hard times, and it's I would say for people like me, if I'm able to go through that, I'm able to be able to I heard your story, I can
Mm.
apply it to my life and make it even
That's right.
better as well.
Mm.
So that's great. So I guess
It's
that's
good.
really how Campfire Project works.
That's
Really.
it. See, the only reason I tell my story is not to impress anybody, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there, I'd say a bigger percentage of the population, who have been through tougher times. The fact that I've been through Aboriginal initiation, people go, oh, wow. And I go, hang on. What I learnt in culture, say that was sand on a beach. I'd had 2 handfuls of sand. And now I look at the rest of the beach. What I've got in my hand is what I learnt. Is yet to be learnt is the rest of the beach. So I only know a little bit of the culture.
That's right.
I only point that out because they took me under their wing. They showed me that love, humility, and respect. And that's why I have the admiration for them. I tell my story and that so that other people can realize that, hey, you should have no fear in telling your story, but find somebody that you feel safe to share that story with. Don't worry about not telling your story, or telling your story or not telling it. Don't focus on that side of it. Focus on who can I find that will listen to my story. Find that, and you'll find that telling your story becomes really easy.
Right. So
So in the Campfire Project, I've interviewed, there's over 284 or 85 people that we've interviewed in the last 3 years since we started it. And we've had 138 panel discussions, and not once has anybody shown any disrespect to anybody else. No bigotry, no sexism, and no racism.
that's great. I mean, that's why I feel like that's what life should be. I mean, people are
Mm.
so judgmental a lot of things. They find out how to judge someone according to their skin or what from their background, and they tend to put that. I guess it makes people bigger and then towards another person or more achievement in some ways. But I feel like life in general, when we do that to people, we put someone down, that person will have a harder life. Like when I was
Mm.
young, I experienced bullying as well, and so but when I grew up, I keep telling my students right now, all my students, bullying is bad. You should know that
Mm.
it hurts someone. You don't see it, you think it's fun, but in reality it hurts someone. And
Mm.
I share my story to my students, and my students are able to
Mm.
understand that and feel like, okay, so
Mm.
this is what they shouldn't do, right? So I like that. I really like that. And
Yeah.
so I have a question about the Campfire Project. There are
Mm.
people in there that just join in. They probably felt like their story is not meaningful enough, so they're unable to share it or they're afraid to share it. But like you said, we should just find someone to share it. But
Mm.
sometimes it gets, how do we
Mm.
know that person is not judgmental? How do we know that if we're sharing that story to that person and that person breaks us down even more?
Mm. Well, see, in the Campfire Project, we've created a culture where nobody's disrespectful to anybody else. If they are, they're out. There's no mucking about. Then
Right.
you've got to prove yourself good enough then to come back in. Because at the end of the day, social media is not our problem. It's the people who are, or the way they're using the social media where the issue is.
Right.
But I'll look straight at the camera because I'm looking at the screen here. My camera's up on the computer, but to everybody who's listening, I'm looking straight at the monitor, at the camera right now. You have a story. You may not think that your story is important. It's not. You may not think that other people have got stories that are more valuable. Rubbish. You've got a story. Yours story is unique, completely different to everybody else's. And therefore, you have a right to share that story. You have a right to the story. You have the right to share it. As I said, the only thing is find the right people. In the Campfire Project, I have been so honoured by people sitting there and telling me their stories of what they've been through. And I can't do anything else but sit there and hold their space. Now, I've done counseling work. I've done a lot of coaching, everything else. But the last thing I'm going to do is start doing any of that while I'm talking to somebody. My job is to sit down, shut up and listen. And quite often, they may talk for 45 minutes without me saying a word. And I let them work through it. And by the way, when we do that, they're always pre-recorded. Nothing goes out live. And as far as the one-on-ones, the campfire where people tell their stories, they don't go outside the group. But when I do those the people tell me those stories, I record them, and they're done on Zoom, so they're recorded. At the end of it, first question I've got with the person is, are you okay with that? And if they say no, there was something because all of a sudden they really needed to speak it, and they've spoken it out, and then they go, oh, I don't want people to know about that, but I did need to get it out of my system. And I go, well, if you don't want me to put the video up, I'll delete it.
Right.
Now, people have said to me, does that mean it's wasted your time? The priority was for me to hold your space so you could tell your story. After that, if other people get to hear your story, that's a bonus. It's not a necessity. And so people can come into the Campfire Project, sit there and just sit down and just watch what's going on and listen to the conversations, listen to the videos, listen to the panel discussions that we have, etc. And that's all they have to do. Now, they don't have to do anything other than, they can come into the thing and do what they like. Then we had the one-on-ones where people then say, oh, I really need to tell my story. Well, even before that now, we've got a number of the members in the group who are setting up Zoom rooms, and they say, right, we're going to be online at this time. Anybody who wants to come in and just chat, say hello.
So anyone wants to come in can go and chat?
They can go in and chat.
Wow.
And it might be, there might be somebody who goes, this homeschooling is driving me nuts. Have you got any ideas on how to get the kids to do the homework? Yeah. I'm guaranteed there'll be somebody sitting there who'll go, oh, yeah, I've been homeschooling as well, and this is what I've been doing. This is the results I've been getting. So they're sharing in that way. So they're having conversations. They can come into the one-on-ones where they can tell their story. Once they've told their story, they can then come into panel discussions. And when I started originally, I started it, and it appeared to everybody to be a men's group, but I had women in there from day one. And the reason was I didn't want it to be just a men's group,
right? Because
most men will actually rush away to go to a men's group, come back out, like going to a motivational seminar. You go to it, all hyped up, you come home and everybody tells you it won't work. So you're waiting for the next seminar to go and get good, to feel good again. Well, by doing it this way with the Campfire Project with the women in there, the men could tell their stories. Women had the opportunity to hear how men could speak when they felt safe to do so. And secondly, the men would then realise the women were there, and they could get into conversations with them. And the women were the ones that I made sure that I brought the right women in, because I knew they'd be respectful.
Right.
And so when the men started, and I brought the men into panel discussions talking about masculinity, femininity, pornography, and other subjects, the women started sending me personal messages going, we have never heard men talk this way before. We love it. Can we get involved? Which is what I was waiting for. So then I brought the women into the one-on-ones. Then we brought the women into the panel discussions. We've got some of the women now running one-on-ones, so people don't have to come to me. They can go to, we've got a young Indigenous guy here in Newcastle who's a radio personality. Mm-hmm. They can have their one-on-one with him. We've got another guy in Melbourne who's in his 40s. Scott, the different personality to me altogether. They can do a one-on-one with him. They can do it with Angela, who's up in Queensland. So there's different people they can do it with. Angela's now running panel discussions. Scott's been running panel discussions. Scott interviewed his father, who he hadn't spoken to for many years because of the separation in the family. His son, so after he interviewed his father, his 9-year-old son decided he wanted to interview him. So now we've got 3 generations of males in that one family who are talking to each other, right, where they weren't talking before. Scott wants to come up from Sydney from Melbourne to Sydney and run back to Melbourne. That's 1,300 kilometres. Mm-hmm. And he's got these bright yellow socks with black dots on, which black dots are the hard parts we go through life. We're not going to get out of it. The tough things are going to happen. But the yellow is the warmth of the sun, the camaraderie of having the right people around you, the support. He wants to hand those out on the run. It'll be 2.5 weeks of running and talk and start 10,000 conversations. Another guy in the Campfire Project wants to join him. He's going to get his father and son to do the same thing. So it'll be 2 families of 3 generations of males on this run. We're supporting
Wow.
a number of charities. Those charities are getting involved in the run as well. Now, the oldest person I've interviewed in the group is 99 years old. He turns 100 in November. The youngest person to actually run and conduct an interview was Scott's son, who was 9 years old at the time. And so we've got a range between 99 and 9 years. So 90-year range between the people who've been on the Campfire Project.
I like this, and the best part about it right now is there's like I think that there's like over 2,000 people on it right now, right? So the amount of stories that we can hear and able to share to others and touch other people's life, it's amazing. And what's even better, I feel like, is like it's not paid, right? No one's getting paid for this. Exactly.
It's all
So
volunteer.
it's like I don't know. For me to see men to actually go up and volunteer something without getting paid in Taiwan's culture as well, or in where I'm located right now, where I've been so far, all I've seen is most men actually want to get paid for things that they do, but women, in a sense, they like to volunteer. But to see this happening, it's revolutionary. I mean, it's like wow, like men are able to share their feelings now. Like just like you said, like my parents, my dad especially doesn't share his feelings. So until now, he has been gone for over 6 years now. But I don't really understand him that much because he never shared his problems. So I don't know his problems. But only after he passed, when I start hearing stories from other people, then I realized, oh, my dad has these problems, but he never shared it. So I felt like I don't want to be that kind of person where my kids doesn't understand the problems I have to be to where I am right now. So that was one of the reasons why I started my podcast, and I felt like if I share it on the internet, I save it down in the future when I'm gone. My kids are able to see my stories and able to learn from it, I guess, in one way, right? So I do really like your Campfire Project a lot. I felt like it does help a lot of people, and I was reading some of the success stories as well, and like it changes some people's life. I really like that. But I have a question. I have one question. Like, what got you started on this campfire? What's the idea that made you want to have to open this project to everyone to share? Because
Well,
I do know there
probably
are lots of clubs and like counseling groups that already have this. But why this project? Why this?
Well, one of the number of reasons. One, in 2006, the Me Too movement started, which was the women who were pointing out the domestic violence and the abuse against women. Absolutely necessary. It was needed because there were some shocking things happened. They came and highlighted that. Then in 2019, because of some of the women with false allegations, they came out to try and protect men's rights. So now you've got two groups and a whole lot of other groups out there that are all pointing at each other like this, saying you're the problem. And so I realized that you never fix anything when you're pointing the finger at somebody else. When you look at the problem and you're not looking at anybody else, you can fix it. So I create the hashtag at the same time, the hashtag We Together, because hashtag We Together means we stand shoulder to shoulder looking at the problem. We're not looking at each other as a problem. There's no egos getting involved because we look at the problem and say, okay, in our complementary role, how we complement each other, what can we do together to fix this problem? And so there's no one pointing their finger and no one defending themselves, and when there's no finger pointing. So that was why that was created. But why the Campfire Project as well? It was me being selfish. When I grew up, I didn't fit in my family at all. I didn't fit in at school. I didn't fit into the work location because of my age and everything else. I was always thrown at the deep end. I didn't fit in at the surf club because I hadn't been there since a young age where all these people started when they were kids. Here I am in my 30s and joining it. And with the Aboriginal community, I'll never fully be accepted because I'm not Aboriginal. I'm accepted to a certain level, but you can't go all the way to become an elder or anything like that because I don't have any Aboriginal blood. So my whole life has been, I've never really fitted anywhere. But I realised that my role in everything has been the link between groups. To actually link the difference between, the Aboriginal side and say Freemasonry, which is all about helping men to become better men. The two of those, everyone think they're poles apart, but their philosophies were similar. And I could see that. And I thought, rightio, how do I bring their philosophies together? Bring the boys from boyhood into manhood, then help them become better men on the other side. And so I realised that I created my own place by creating the Campfire Project. But I've just realised that I'm also setting myself up to make myself redundant as well. You know, I built the bus, I've been driving the bus, and now I'm getting out of the driver's seat and getting into the passenger seat and letting other people drive it. Because while they're doing that and they're living what we've put together, and they'll carry that through probably better than I've been able to do in the past as it keeps going into the future. But it has allowed me then to go and do other things within that group as well and look at new ideas and how to expand it in greater ways again. And I can only do that when I've got the right people around me. So the Campfire Project, it's not really my tribe. A lot of people who create their own groups say, oh, this is my tribe. And I go, no. But I've got raised in a way in which it's become our community. So as it's our community, I'm also part of that our.
Right.
So it's my community as well.
So that we can all be together, so we don't have to like discriminate or anything, and we can
That's
all
it.
work towards a similar goal. Right.
Yeah. So we don't care about gender, we don't care about culture, we don't care about sexual preferences or anything else.
Right.
You know, I'll sit there and have the same conversation with everybody, male, female, no matter what gender they are. You know, I'll listen to their stories, and I'll listen there with respect, and I'll listen there with admiration, because when people start to tell me what they've been through and, you know, how they've been able to handle it and what they've done, I'm in awe. So I feel very privileged to be in that position. So, yeah, I created not only a place where I belong now, but also respected to a higher degree with the people around me, which has been something I didn't have before, which is brilliant.
Right. I do have a pre-question from one of my audience viewers from before for today's show. She was saying, what if, I'm sorry, why do we share our story to other people instead of our own spouses or our own relatives? So that's her question. So I feel like we are sharing our story to everyone else, but sometimes we are so secluded that we don't want to, or private, don't want to share this with our own spouses. Like, why is that? And how can we open up, or should we not open up in this case?
Yeah, we should open up. The more that we understand each other's personalities, the easier that becomes. So it's not, as I said before, I know that you have what I call aesthetic appreciation. When you're working on something, your mind's on it and you're focused on it, leave you alone, don't interrupt you. Now, that means you'll probably go quiet while you're working on something. And if your spouse it has the opposite trait where they're more dramatic in the way they express themselves, they express it outwardly, they want to know what's going on. And so the end result, they're asking you questions, or you're withdrawing more because you're trying to fix this problem, and that's just a hassle to hear all that. And I'll teach your partner to actually ask you two questions and a statement to follow it. The first question is it anything to do with me? If the answer to that's no. Is it anything to do with anything I can help you with? The answer to that's no. Then the third part's a statement. Well, Dominic, I know that you need to work on this. It seems to be important to you and everything else. I'm going to leave you alone to do that. But when you're finished, can you come and talk to me?
Right.
And so you then come forward. If it's the other way around, it's only one statement you've really got to, or question you've got to ask your partner, because they want to express outwardly. And quite often while they're expressing outwardly, that you're going, is this to do with me? It's what's going on. And it's one question. And that is double-ended question. Is there anything that I can help you with to fix? Or do you just want me to listen? Because if somebody who expresses outwardly, they need to vent. They just need an ear. If they say, yes, it's something you can fix, well, it could be one of two things. You screwed up in the first place, so this is something they expect you to fix, or you have the ability to fix that problem, whatever it might be that's happened around them. And so once you know how to talk to your partner, you're able to get better results with things. But the second part of your question, the reason why we don't talk to our spouse, quite often because we don't have that level of communication. We're always worried about, we want our spouse to respect us. And the last thing we're going to do is unload, especially the guys, we're not going to unload what we've been going through, because we don't want to lose the admiration of our partner. Right. Well, guess what, guys? as long as you do it in a way in which you're explaining things, so you're not doing just as an emotional dump on them, then they're going to admire you for it. If a man who can show his vulnerability has far more power than a man who's trying to hide everything, because hiding it, you know, you're not going to be the best version of yourself. Your partner's going to miss out. Your community, your kids, everybody around you is going to miss out. So if you're able to show that vulnerability, then you've shown strength that other men who haven't shown it haven't got.
But there we go. That's our answer, guys. That is true. I totally agree with that. Like, if we do as guys myself, if I share my feelings, I feel better myself as well. And like Ellen says, don't dump emotional stuff totally. Like I know guys when they open up sometimes there's no control over how they how they share it out. Sometimes they just drop everything down, and I mean that's like a nuclear bomb if we do that. So I feel like we should just share a little bit by a little bit, and eventually things get better, as I guess some ways, right?
Yes. And reframe it with your partner as well. If you've got something you need to say, and that, don't just bring it out and just dump it on the table. Let them know that, hey, I just need to. Could you just sit and listen to me? I just want to vent something. I just want to express something, and we can talk about it afterwards. Or I just want to get this off my chest. But explain it in a way in which you don't cause problems, because people will say, oh, so and so did such and such to me. Nobody does anything to you. Yes, they might throw rocks at you or something like that, but how we respond to it, it's totally our choice. And the thing is, if somebody says something, I ask myself, why did they say that? What's going on in their life for them to need to throw that out at me? Because, as you said, bullies, all the kids bully and everything else, but you'll generally find bullies are kids who have been bullied themselves. They have low self-esteem. The only way they can feel better about themselves is they pull other people down. So when you talk to their victim, so to speak, and you point out to them that, hey, the bully is going through all this stuff, you can actually create empathy between the two. So the person who's being bullied becomes the one who repairs the situation.
Yeah, the empathy thing. Like definitely. Like for me as well, in my family, I like to hug people, but I'm not a huggable person. Like I want people to hug me, but for me to actually go hug someone is kind of tough in a way. But I feel like if I do that, my kids will feel more love in that, and at the same time relationship grows with my children. So for people as well, I feel like for other people, if we tend not physically give a hug, I mean physically somehow emotionally or something like a support to them, I feel like maybe that will also give them a little bit of ease of their burden, and at the same time we feel better in some ways, right?
That's it. So instead of sitting across from the person, just get up and move over and sit next to them. Sit with your shoulder next to their shoulder, and look. If they're looking down at the ground, look where they're looking, because then there's a connection. Because when they talk about matching and mirroring somebody's body, when you do that, you're thinking about it. But when you really connect with the person, you find you naturally do it without even thinking about it. And I can see two people who have really got great rapport, because you can see they're not really taking notice of what the other one's doing, but they're doing exactly the same thing. Their tone of voice changes, the speed of their conversation changes, the way they sit, the way they're standing or walking or whatever. So the more that you can just hold that other person's space, the more that they're likely to open up to you. And you just proved as well, as I said before, when you said, the men will just vomit this stuff out like an explosion. We're extremely emotional, but where we don't have the ability, because most women, they will band together. When someone's got a problem, they go and talk to each other.
Right.
We were always told to suck it up, be tough and everything else. Boys don't cry and all the rest of it. And so we pull back. And so we hold it down. The trouble is they don't see us being emotional, but all this volcano is going on underneath. You can have a mountain, the volcano sitting there very quietly, but what's going on underneath? And all of a sudden, that's what the guys were doing. And so it come out in a lot of cases the wrong way.
And it does that, and we burn everything around us as well. Like we hurt our own families, we hurt friends, and whatnot. I don't know what else. I know this because I kind of when I lived in Darwin before, I lived with a bunch of Aboriginal friends and families. There's this one story I just gotta share. Like the dad was so happy, like he was able to bought a huge TV, right? He bought a huge TV back to his home. And that night something happened. Like he's unable to control his emotions when he was trying to vent it out. And the next morning, the brand new TV is out on the trash. You know, it's broken. I mean, what happened? And so I was talking to him, and I found out that he felt that he wasn't appreciated, and that at the same time he was trying to share his emotions by saying, "Oh, I'm so happy I'm able to bought a TV for us," but it wasn't appreciated, so he wasn't able to, you know, take control of that. At the same time, so he exploded. I mean, he wasn't a sharing person, so that's the problem, I guess. If he was able to share it at a slow pace, I guess, and then, I mean, it wouldn't erupt. He would still have his TV. So, yeah.
Well, see, my thing to the women is always, if you want it so that your partner, the men around you will, and your sons as well, that they will open up and share with you, create the space so it's safe to do so.
Yeah, definitely.
Let them know that it's okay for them to actually talk to you about things, that you're not going to judge them, that you love them, you want to understand more about what's going on, because and let them know that you don't see that as a weakness if they share things with you. Make it a safe place for the men to be able to do it, because we've shoved it down for so long. It's hard to break an old programming process until we're able to put a new program in, and that new program takes a little while to overwrite the old one. And so, our partners can help us just as much as we can help them, because we can fix problems and things like that, but our partner may not want that problem fixed. They may just want somebody who will actually listen to them. That's if right. Our partner wants us to just listen to them, why can't we ask them to listen to us as well?
Yeah, definitely. For sure, men definitely have to become better listeners as well. Like, we tend to not be quick on responding. We just have to listen more. And then, I guess that's better.
Just ask your partner, you want me to fix it, or you just want me to listen? And remember, you've got 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Right. Use them in that proportion.
Well, thank you, Alan. We're about time. So, is there anything you want to share to our viewers for our last time, or even share your what's it called, the lesson that you were gonna offer to everyone else?
Well, the best way for people to get in touch with me is just through my website, which is alanstevens.com.au.
Right,
yeah, and if you just put the forward / in front of it, after the AU / and the word free, FREE, that will take you then from there, it'll reroute you off to my training platform. And if you have any problems with that redirection, just send me a message through the website, and I'll send another link out, which will go straight to the training platform. But as I always say to people, there are 2 things that I live by. One of them is the most important thing I'll ever learn is the next thing I learn after I know everything. So I never stop learning. And the other thing is, what you do for yourself dies with you, but what you do for others and for the community is and always will be eternal. So if you want to leave a legacy, you want people to remember what you've been here for, look at connecting with people. And as far as the profiling side of things go, it works with everybody from the cradle right through to old age, and especially with helping kids at school as well, and raising kids that have got autism and Asperger's and other conditions like that.
Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you to all viewers out there for coming in to share and support us today. I will send the link as well to the free website and from alanstevens.com at AU /free onto the chat line. And be sure to check out his website as well, and check out the Facebook group Campfire Project if you have some if you have a story to tell and to learn and help yourself as well. And to end again with this quote: tell your story, because your story will heal you and it will heal someone else. I think the most important part is it will heal you as well, yourself. Okay,
that's it.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming to Just Chat Out with Uncle Dominic with Alan Stevens today. So have a good day, guys. Goodbye.